Hello and welcome. I'm Stephanie Eidleman, President and CEO of InsideARM and the IA Institute. I'm here today with Dave Pauken, CEO of Convoke, for our latest executive Q&A. So Dave, welcome. And why don't we start out with just define your market for Convoke. Who are your customers?
Thanks, Stephanie. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. Convoke's market is credit issuers who loan money to consumers and use third-party debt collectors, and that would include collection agencies, collection attorneys, if they sell debt to debt buyers, or have consumers who end up with debt settlement agencies. That's our market.
Okay, terrific. Now that we've established that, let's go to the next step. What are the pain points that you solve for your customers?
The pain points we solve for credit issuers who use third-party debt collectors relate primarily to two areas. When they're using third parties, they've got to get information to validate the debt to these third parties. And that's often a complex process with numerous artifacts, statements, terms and conditions, applications that need to be provided to these third parties. On the other side, they have a business and a regulatory requirement to oversee these third parties, their collection performance, how they're managing compliance with business standards, how they're managing compliance with regulatory requirements, all of which involve obtaining information from that third party so they can measure these performance activities.
Okay, excellent. So, and gosh, today with the new developments of potentially the Hunstein case and Regulation F, obviously this becomes even more important, all that third-party oversight.
It does become important. The regulatory community made it clear, I think around 2012, that credit issuers had a responsibility for the activities of these third-party collectors. And so that created a business problem for them. And how were they going to efficiently and effectively do that oversight? And Convoke has solved that problem through some sophisticated data engineering, where we obtain daily evidence of the collection activity. And that evidence manifests itself either in data. There's hundreds of different types of data fields, whether it's a phone call or a text or a DMDC scrub, a military scrub, a bankruptcy scrub. All of these activities are occurring every day. And the engineering involved to gather this information, standardize it, and make it useful so a credit issuer can make wise decisions on how the business is performing is a very difficult task that we've solved.
Yeah, I suspect that one of the pain points generally is that all this information probably exists, but it's in disparate systems, different databases, sort of managed by different organizations, and hard to pull together when needed.
That's a really good point. Take a typical credit issuer that's got 10 collection agencies. They might have 20 collection attorneys that work for them around the country. So here they've got 30 different businesses that are using 30 different systems and have their own nomenclature and business process internally. And so you can very quickly imagine the challenge involved to perform the business and compliance oversight for those 30 different systems. And Convoke has built a very elegant solution for these third parties to easily upload this information in a secure manner and communicate it back to the credit issuer in a way that they have business intelligence that is actionable to monitor the performance of these third parties.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Regulation F. What parts of the new CFPB rule, as it's currently stated anyway, can Convoke help creditor issuers with?
Yeah, there's a lot to that rule, right? It's over 1,000 pages, but let's bring it down into three buckets. One of them is communication caps. The second one would be communication preferences. And the third would be the debt validation tear-off. So those would be three areas. Let's go through each one of them briefly. On communication caps, we all know there's a 7 call limit on a 7 rolling day, and that's a hard cap. And then there's a soft cap on total communication attempts, whether it be text, chat, email. So credit issuers are want information on the compliance with that requirement. And all these third parties are using dialers or other mechanisms to make calls, and various software products to do emailing, texting, chat. We will gather that information and present it to the credit issuer in a way that they can monitor the compliance with those communication caps. Similarly, for communication preferences, there will be time, date, place, other preferences that consumers will have, as well as medium. Do they want email, chat, or phone? All of that will be housed within the collection systems or dialer systems of third-party collectors. And again, that will be uploaded onto Convoke so that credit issuers can monitor the compliance with those communication preferences. And then finally, on the debt validation tear-off, those tear-offs will come into the agencies or the attorneys, and that will kick off a process for either a fraud investigation or a debt validation process that again needs to be monitored and will have a clock to it. And we'll provide that information to the credit issuer so they can ensure that the third party is meeting their responsibilities to respond to that tear-off.
So how does Convoke get that data, let's call it the communication instance data, from all of the disparate systems? Is there an API, feed? Do you have to work with every single agency to accommodate that data standard, or?
Good question. So over the years, we have developed a process that involves a combination of batch or in certain instances API uploads onto Convoke. There's over 350 third parties now on our platform, and daily they are uploading information out of their dialers or out of their collection systems or out of their media management systems, the various systems that third-party collectors use to conduct their business. We've identified and worked with them on the data and the artifacts that credit issuers want to see to monitor the business performance and compliance with existing regs and soon to be Reg F. And this is extracted each day by these third parties and uploaded securely onto our servers.
Okay, so basically you're just taking the place of what they would have had to do direct to the creditor. You're basically acting as the creditor's system.
Yeah,
right?
absent Convoke, credit issuers who don't use us and third parties who don't use us, they have other systems and processes to convey this information. Our thesis is we can do it better, faster, cheaper, and in a systemic, standardized way. Often, third-party collectors will ask us to work with other credit issuers to get them on Convoke, because you can imagine a typical collection agency that's working for 20 different credit issuers, and there's 20 different processes and procedures that they have to manage and adhere to convey information. And if they could just do it on a standardized way through Convoke to communicate with all their credit issuers, it makes their life easier, lowers error rate, and increases performance for them.
Right. If everybody would only just use the same system, people could probably deal with whatever that system was. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you're almost a core utility for issuers. I know that issuers generally don't make significant technology moves without consulting their regulators. What's the process you go through to onboard a new client? That must be a long process.
It is a long process. And you're right, we are a core utility to a credit issuer. They are using us every day. We become one of the main systems that they use to monitor and manage third-party collections. Many creditors use a recovery management system, and they'll also use us, which we'll refer to as a collection intelligence system, that sits alongside that recovery management system. And when they think about adoption, it does involve compliance, risk, and the business to make a decision on whether or not to adopt Convoke. Because in the end, they do need a system and a platform that meets their business and compliance requirements. And that's typically the process. It takes a long time. And credit issuers, once they adopt, typically will start in one or two areas initially, either say debt validation, where that's a pain point for them, or legal collection oversight, and that's their pain point. And they'll begin with us there, and then over the years adopt other features and functionality that we have to help them manage and monitor their performance. We're in a unique position where we solve problems that consumers care about, credit issuers care about, third-party collectors care about, and regulators care about.
Isn't that fun to have a consensus? That doesn't happen very often. All right, let's go to something even more fun. Any predictions that you want to make for the next 6 or 12 months for our industry?
Sure, I'll make some predictions. I think, so volumes are depressed generally, but collection dollars have been high for many reasons that we're all aware of. Additional cash that consumers have because they're not out spending it at the restaurants and movie theaters and government stimulus. So I think that trend continues for a while. Volumes will stay low, but collections will remain robust. I think that some form or fashion regulation will go through. Perhaps some of the regulators, the CFPB, may do some amendments to it, but at least what I'm hearing is in some form or fashion it will likely go through. And I think the transformation to digital, I think, is an important element. This industry is adopting digital collection strategies, email, chat, text, portals, in a way that previously had not happened, and maybe the pandemic has furthered that along.
Accelerated for sure.
Yeah, and so that creates some new challenges. Collecting money digitally is different than collecting it over the phone and through mail. And so I think there'll be some adaptation that has to occur across the industry for collectors on learning how these new ways to collect. And then for credit issuers, overseeing and monitoring that so they can optimize performance of their third parties and compliance. Our role in that will be obtaining all of the evidence and actions of these digital collection needs and presenting it to a third party or to a credit issuer so it's useful for them. That will be our role in this transition.
Yeah, got it. All right, well, fabulous. I think we've reached the end of our stay so that folks will want to move off to their next thing during the day. So thanks so much, Dave. And just before we sign off, if people want to learn more about Convoke, where can they do that?
They can come to convokesystems.com, and there's full contact information, and we'll get back to you.
Terrific. All right, thanks. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you the next time.
Thank you, Stephanie.